Hello and welcome back. Today I thought we'd get nice and cozy on the couch. Got my blanket here. We've got Meadow, and we are going to talk all about IVF. So in our previous videos, we talked about how my birth with Graydon, the struggles that we had there, and then our miscarriages and also endometriosis. Now we are going to be moving on to being recommended to a fertility specialist. First off, I thought, who are we to go to a fertility specialist? We've only had two miscarriages. I found out I have endometriosis now. I guess we can see what they can have to offer, but I don't want to do IVF. Those were my initial reactions. So we had our recommendation, but we did not make an appointment right away. We waited until about in the summer, about July or so, to call and just to make an appointment to see. The reason I didn't want to make an appointment was one, I didn't feel like our case needed to go necessarily. I just thought maybe we try again. I don't know. But also the cost associated, and just I didn't really know many people that were going through IVF, or even that fertility specialists could help with other things other than IVF. So it was a lot of misinformation on my part. The greatest thing is that I did go ahead and dig into more about my work benefits, and I did find out that my work had great IVF benefits and that the clinic that was recommended was covered within that umbrella. And so I thought, well, let's just go ahead and make an appointment and see what they can do. Let's just go ahead and see. I want to just get diagnostic testing of what's actually going on. What is our hurdle? But I don't want to do IVF. I didn't want to do IVF because I thought it would be too mentally straining on me, too hard mentally, which would then be a strain on me and then my relationship with my husband, Andy, and therefore our son. I didn't want our choice to go forward through with our fertility to cause any harm to our family that we have right now, because we are so thankful to have Graydon and the family that we do have. But anyways, setting that aside, we scheduled that first appointment and we met Dr. Z for the first time. It was a video call and we got to meet Dr. Z, and I just explained kind of our little bit of our background and what we were looking for. He was completely no pressure at all. He was like, that's fine. If you don't want to do IVF, that's totally fine. Like, we can see what options are available. Just figure out what's going on. I knew right away that it was going to be a good fit because he was so welcoming and so chill, like heard us, but also wasn't pressuring certain medical interventions or anything like that. He also explained that there are so many different types of interventions that are available, and that we would want to pick the best option for what our results were from the tests and our um, and the choices that we wanted to make within our budget and what meets our criteria for our insurance as well. Okay, so we did the first tests with our diagnostic testing. So it was blood work. Andy and I both went in. We both had blood work. I had a ultrasound. I also had a water sonogram, and Andy also did a semen analysis. So with all of that, we have all of that done, and all of that information and the test results came back. Everything went to Dr. Z. So we had another call with him, which was great. It was a direct contact with him to kind of go over our results and what our best options would be. At that point, he notified us that my uterus had scar tissue, and there was something going on with it that they weren't quite sure exactly what was going on, and that they would like to do medical intervention to see if we could get it to be in a state that would be like healthy to grow a baby. So we did do that surgery where they did remove scar tissue and tried to reshape a little bit. It was that experience of going under, having the scar tissue removed out of the uterus was so, it was like a breeze compared to any other surgeries I've had. And it wasn't only just due to like the surgeon, but also the atmosphere and how we were taken care of, and pre-op being in my own room and being comfortable. And it just really made a huge difference with their team. Everyone from check-in, my nurse, um, my anesthesiologist, just everyone was so kind, and it really made the process like a breeze. Recovery was very simple as well. I was up in within the day. Next day, I was up and going again. Um, and so that surgery was very easy. It was a surgery, but it was easy compared to like my DNCs, as in pain wise and such. So I did have that surgery to go ahead and remove that so that we could go ahead and see if we would be able to get pregnant again. With our results, there were some other factors as well. So we did decide to go with IVF. The reason we decided to go with IVF instead of an IUI is because my insurance through work, it covers, um, I would get more bang for my buck if I did an IVF round versus an IUI, because I could only get coverage for so many. And if I used them all on IUI, I wouldn't have any coverage on IVF, as I have my insurance is Progeny. So with my smart cycles and what my work provided, it would made the most sense to go with IVF and with our results, with all of our other test results. So we did IVF. I felt at this point, I don't know what switched in me, but I felt totally like this is right. This is meant to be. This is what we're supposed to do. This is not going to be a huge strain on our family financially. And I just had this feeling that it was absolutely the right thing to do. I didn't have fears about it. Of course, I did meet with my counselor and such and talked through things, but I felt like it was I thought the process was going to be very drawn out, which it definitely can be, but it's very like this happens and this happens and this can happen or this can happen. It's very like here's the route, and then these are the things that can happen. This is what can change. Um, so by looking at IVF in like a big framework, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. Um, so all in all, my heart changed for some reason or another, and I was like, "All right, let's do IVF." Andy was like, "All right, let's do it." So we moved right into. So we started our IVF journey in August, and we moved right in. So in August we had our consultation. September we had my surgery, which I was able to get done right away. And then from there, after surgery, we waited a cycle, and then I was able to start my egg retrieval medications. Um, so crazy on this one is that I was on a girls' trip that had been planned for months and months and months. And so my first day of injections was on my girls' trip. So I was with my best friends, and they helped me do my first injection in a bar bathroom. And so yeah, that is so memorable, but also like so amazing to be able to go through the journey, not only with my family, but with my best girlfriends as well. Um, so yeah, and there it all began. My first dose for my egg retrieval was crazy because I accidentally overdosed myself. Because I didn't think it was like in a pen, and I did not think that it went, but it did, and I didn't know. So I did have a little freak out there. I had to call the helpline to make sure I was okay, and the doctor just adjusted my meds for the next day, and it was no big deal. But man, that was a panic. Because here you are with all of these needles, all these medications, like, and there's multiple, like 4 or 5, taking them at different times of day, oral, injections, all the things. Um, and so it's intimidating. Definitely got used to it. After like the first week, it's like, oh, no big deal. I know what I'm doing, which was nice. I did always numb. Whenever I was doing an injection, I did always use numbing cream, which I will do another video after this one about my tips and tricks for IVF, so that you guys can have that information if you're looking for it. Because I did find a numbing cream you can buy on Amazon for super um, inexpensive. So Those injections, they weren't horrible. Mine didn't sting super bad. There definitely were some spicy ones, but nothing was unbearable. They were all done with a very small needle. It was uncomfortable. I ended up looking and feeling very pregnant. I was very tired and lethargic. And it was sore. It was like almost like heavy. I don't know how to describe it, but it was heavy. I had 29 eggs. And so that's a lot of eggs. And so that were developed or full that were growing. And so that was a lot of eggs. It was full to say the least. So then it came the egg retrieval day. We did the trigger shot the day before. And then we had the egg retrieval day. Egg retrieval day was like, I was so excited, yet so nervous because you hear, I knew the doctor told me that he didn't think there would be an issue with retrieving the eggs, but you never know like how many are going to get it, how many are mature, how many will fertilize, all of that. So we did go through that. I went under for that. Again, super seamless process at Pinnacle Fertility. It was so best experience ever for going under and everything. Their team is wonderful. So they had the embryologist right there with them when they were doing the egg retrieval and counting them. When I came out of surgery, they told me I had 29 eggs, which is amazing. Um, so not all of them were mature though. So they did get those out. Then I learned that there was 22 mature. So we also did ICSI. So they went ahead and injected the sperm into the eggs, and we had 22 fertilized because it was injected in. From there, we waited and we did get the PGTA testing for our embryos. So all of those were there. I think we had 12 that matured and could go forward to the testing. At that point, those were sent off to have the genetic testing, and we ended up getting a good amount of embryos that were fertilized and beautiful, and they were frozen. So, yes, we are super excited about how the amount of embryos that we have. We are going to keep that near and dear to our hearts for our knowledge and those are our loved ones. But going through that process was really great. And then we also know with my miscarriages, like we know that these embryos are fully, they are genetically normal, so that I wouldn't miscarry because it's not a genetically normal embryo, which made us feel really good that we did the PGTA testing on all of them so that we knew if it didn't hold through the IVF process that it wasn't due to the genetics. And so that is something that we felt confident about doing with our embryos. So now let's go on to transfer. So we moved right in. I never had a month off. We just kept going because I was like, let's go. Also, I had already met my insurance deductible, so we just wanted to keep on rolling, get as much done as we could during that time. Now we were scheduled for transfer. So, transfer, we had to wait for a cycle, and then we went ahead and started injections before the transfer. So I went ahead and we had our transfer date. I was so excited. Started doing injections and also I believe it was just injections. Oh, and oral medications for the first round. I did go in for lining checks and such. My lining unfortunately did not thicken. So that was the first time that we came to a major hurdle in our fertility journey is because my lining wasn't thickening, and if your lining doesn't thicken, the embryo can't won't stick, so to say, so you can't carry. And so what happened is it ended up getting my embryo transfer ended up getting canceled, and that was hard, but I was like, okay, that's fine, that's normal, it happens. There's a lot of different protocols that can be taken and such. So Dr. Z met with us again, and he changed up the protocol. This protocol, I did have different medications and they were frequent. And also to say with the first round of the transfer that was canceled, my blood work came back great. So my levels in my blood work were great. It was just that my endometrium lining was not thickening. So we changed up protocol. We went through it again. We had another transfer date. So excited. And again, my blood work showed great. It's just that the lining was not thickening. This is when Dr. Z had a conversation with us about possibly looking into surrogacy, as my uterine lining was not thickening, due to like damage, like medical trauma from the DNCs from birth, with the excessive bleeding, um, and that he believed that the tissue, the cells were just damaged and um, they would not thicken due to the damage. And so he said, I said, is there anything else we can do? Is there anything else we can try? Because of course I wanted to carry. I wanted to carry these embryos that we created. We created them for me to go ahead and carry, and to have another baby. And he said, well, let's try to do stimulate egg growth to see if your endometrium lining will thicken that way. He said, but I am going to do this as a I'm not going to schedule a transfer date, but I am going to go ahead and just have it be like a mock cycle. So with the mock cycle, what they do is you do all your prescriptions and everything, and then they'll check your lining to see where you're at when you would start progesterone shots. So I was like, okay, let's do it. I did that, and eggs developed. My numbers were great in my blood, but my endometrium lining just would not thicken. So that was when he said that Dr. Z said there's no other, if due to the cells being damaged and they're not budging, there's nothing else is going to make them thicken. That was the hardest phone call probably of my life. Not because it was delivered in a bad way or anything like that. It was just because my dream of becoming a mom, I thought it was at an end. I thought that becoming a mom of two, I should say. I am a mom. I have a 4-year-old. But I thought that, okay, well, this is the end of my dream of being a mom of more children. It was really hard to hear that my body can't carry. It even kind of like pulls at me now a little bit. Because it's hard. It's super hard news to hear that, especially as a woman or someone that wants to expand their family. It's just was a really hard reality. And I think it was for my husband as well. But once all those feelings went by, we were able to talk with the surrogacy company, get information about the the surrogacy company that Dr. Z recommended. So it's affiliated. So with Pinnacle Fertility is Dr. Z works at, and then Pinnacle Surrogacy. So it's the same franchise. And so we talked with Ashley, who is our coordinator at Pinnacle Surrogacy. And our first call was just general information, how much it costs, what could we expect if we want to move forward, these are the steps we need to take, and things like that. So we already had all that information even before, I think it was when we were recommended by Dr. Z to look into surrogacy as an option. We did schedule an appointment just so we could get information. Once I had the mock cycle and found out that my body is unable to medically carry another child, that is when we had the option to either stop growing our family or moving forward with surrogacy. At this point, it just felt like everything had lined up so amazing. We were able to get in to our appointments easily. We were able to get my surgery done, get the diagnostic testing, having the coverage that we had with my benefits from work, being able to even just have the option to have our egg retrieval, have it go so well, have frozen embryos off of one egg retrieval. We just felt like it was meant to be that we continue this journey and that those embryos were meant to be used and to expand our family with. So while our IVF story was successful in so many ways, the end goal of it was not successful of what we thought the end goal was. We thought the end goal was for me to be pregnant with our little embryos. But little did we know that that was not the end goal. That the end goal for our family was to create these beautiful embryos and have them transferred into our surrogate. I also want to say that I don't want to diminish the fact that IVF is really hard. It's really hard in a lot of ways, especially if you don't get the news that you want to get. Our process with the beginning of IVF, with our surgery and egg retrieval, and the amount of embryos we were able to freeze was all pretty seamless and very the what we wanted to hear, what we wanted to expect. That the surgery was successful, removing scar tissue, that we are able to create embryos and have them frozen. Those are all things that that were relatively smooth for us. What wasn't smooth is me not being able to even get to an embryo transfer because my body would not allow. So there are a lot of hard things. It is mentally draining, absolutely, physically, let alone the weight gain, the mental challenges, the injections, the pain, things like that. Um, but what is it all worth it? Yes. And would I do it again just to be at the day that I am today? Yes. Even though I don't have a baby in my arms yet, I believe it was worth it. Thank you for listening to my story with IVF. This journey was not quick. I did IVF for about 9 months, which is really short compared to a lot of people. I do recognize that. I am thankful that I was able to get in so quickly and I was able to move forward with the steps due to my body cooperating or not cooperating at sometimes. Thanks again for joining, and I hope you'll come back. See you next time. Bye.